Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to me going through the Board Game Geek top 100 rated games as rated by thousands or hundreds of thousands of users. And so I go through this list. I went through it in 2008, in January. Now it's February 2020. So we're going to see how things changed and give my opinions on the specific games that are here. 30 through 21. Lots of different things going on. Here we're moving up into the top ranked games. We'll start with a game that's ranked number 10 on the thematic scale, but 30 overall, and that is Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Now, in this game, which is one of the Arkham horror style games from Fantasy Flight, there are a lot of them. This is one of the 2nd editions that completely wiped out the 1st edition to the point where I would feel like you will have a very difficult time finding someone who plays 1st edition at all. 1st edition was fine. It had someone be kind of a dungeon master. Here, they made the app the dungeon master, and wow, did they do a good job at this. You are playing some investigators. You play through a scenario. There is combat sometimes in these scenarios, but you know, the monsters are usually way bigger than you. So you fight a few of them and you often run and investigate. There are miniatures in this game, which are actually, they're okay miniatures. They're not great, but they're miniatures. But the art and the app is just on point. And there's also quite a few expansions and lots of different scenarios that you can play. Mansions of Madness. Now, number 29, we've already mentioned the revised edition of this. Let's talk about the original version of this one, and that is Agricola. So Mansions of Madness went from 19 to 30. Agricola went from 15 to 29. So that's kind of a drop here, but that's how a lot of these games work. You know, the Euro-style games. Agricola, the game in which you get to make a beautiful thing like this, it's your farm. This is the very original Agricola here. See the cubes? Now they're animals. In fact, when we first did the pre-orders for Agricola back in the day, that was like this was before Kickstarter, that was the upgrade. Get little animal pieces. And now if you have one with cubes, you have the rare one. This is more akin to what it looks like now. This is a game, doesn't come with these, this is a game that was also one of the first games I should mention where people started making stuff for games. I didn't know a lot about upgrades for games until Agricola was the first game. I'm not sure why there are Jedi. Okay, well, you can find all sorts of weird pictures. Hey, there's spotted cows. That's what I have in my copy. Anyhow, in this game, it was a grueling game in many ways, but it offered so many choices. There's a huge deck of cards that you would have 7 of each game. And then you try to use those 7 cards and then another deck of cards to work together, use this worker placement game to build up. It is Uwe Rosenberg's, certainly, it is not the highest ranked game on this list in the top 100, but it is very high up there. In fact, I'm going to be giggling in just a moment. Okay, let's jump now to the most, not difficult game on the list, but the one I like the least, I think. Food Chain Magnate! All right, hear me out, hear me out. I get that this is a great game for many people. It is just not a great one for me. But this is definitely very highly regarded. The people who like it love it. The people who taught it to me loved it, and loved it so much that they beat me with a club upside the head in the game itself. That's just how that is. I get it. It is not my style of game. It is a game that if you fall behind, you're probably not going to catch back up. And it also looks like it was printed out in 1975. And people still enjoy it. I have a really cool upgraded version in the Dice Tower library, and I get that people like it. So this one was 28 last time too. So it's holding its position strongly, and I know lots of people love it, and I expect it will be on the list in several years. So not being mean. But let's go back to Agricola. Last time Agricola was 15, went to 29. This game was 13 and is at 27, so it's still staying 2 ahead, and that's Caverna! Caverna's better than Agricola. Actually, that's very, very, very widely debated. Usually, you know how I mentioned that Mansions of Madness 2nd edition? You can't find people who play the 1st edition. With Caverna and Agricola, it feels like a 50-50 split. Agricola is a very punishing style game, and some people love that. If you like punishing, Agricola, Food Chain Magnate. You want wide open games, Caverna, which looked a lot like Agricola, except that it has more pieces, it has a dwarf theme, and you're building a cave too. And there's a lot more options. It was easier to feed your people. It got rid of the gazillion cards. It has maybe like 50 different tiles to build, which is still a lot of options, but some people wanted that huge array of options. And so I understand that people like Agricola better. I'm definitely on the Caverna train, though, and I'm glad to see that people are still enjoying it. Look how many options you got each game. All right, next one is 26, and it was 25 2 years ago, so it's staying pretty steady, and that's Corleones. Now, the interesting thing about Corleones to me is that the sequel to Corleones, I wondered if it would surpass it, and it's clear now that Altiplano will not. Corleones is a bag building game similar to deck building games like Dominion, except in this one you're reaching and pulling these discs from a bag. Now there's more and more of these games coming out. Corleones was one of the first one to do it. You use these to take actions, to move your guy around the board, to collect stuff, or to move down these different tracks that give you bonuses and benefits, and it all fits together in such a tight, marvelous, wonderful game. I really like Corleones, and it also has 2 fantastic expansions. All right, our next game, 25, which was 16 last time, has the most diehard fans of almost any game on the list, to the point where we recently did a solo game list and they wouldn't shut up because they insisted this game had to be on the list. Well, it was by one person. And that's Mage Knight, the board game, which is fascinating because when this game was announced, nobody wanted to talk about it, because back then when you played Mage Knight, you were a miniatures gamer, and the Euro gamers were like, Mage Knight, the board game, is going to be probably awful. And we're like, Vasel's going to make it. And they were like, what? Tell me more. And then they played it, and now they think it's the greatest thing ever. But I was playing Mage Knight before this game was announced. They're nothing alike. This is a deck builder-ish, tiny little deck building in this game. Action, resource management. This is one that, well, you can see there that I've rated it an 8, but I think when I re-rate this, it's probably going to drop down to a 6. That's a big drop for me, but I'll tell you why. It's work. It's a great game, but it just feels like work, and there's a lot of other games, and I come to this, and it's work for me, not so much even to play the game, but to remember how to play it. There's so many things. Don't hate on me. I know people love this game, and I'm not saying it doesn't belong up here. I'm saying for me, look at the weight there, 4.29 out of 5. That is very high, even by Board Game Geek standards, where even nothing gets to a 5, so that's pretty high. And I like the game fine, it's just I don't know how often more I'm going to play it. All right. Well, this is definitely Uwe Rosenberg's grouping of 10, because number 24, which was 30 last time, so this one was behind Agricola and Caverna, and now has popped ahead of both of them. And I think it's going to stay that way. This is turning out to be his most critically acclaimed game, A Feast for Odin. This is actually, I kind of waffle on these. My personal favorite is still Le Havre, which is actually not, that one was much farther down the list than these 3. That was at 42. But these 3, I mean, Uwe Rosenberg, obviously, people are loving it. But look at this. You talk about choices. That is the worker placement board there. You can place your workers on your turn on one of those spots. Which spot? There's like, I think, 60 of them. There's a lot. And if you get the expansion, there's even more spots. And then you're filling in the grid with the Tetris shape. So there's a lot of these Tetris, polynomial things that you put on spaces. There's a lot of these out there. And this is definitely the heaviest of all of them. I really love this game. It's one of the few games I like that if you start, you see all those negative ones there on that board? Those are all negative points you start with. I usually hate stuff like that, but for some reason the satisfaction of covering up all those spots is fantastic. And there's also a gazillion pieces. I don't normally like teaching heavy games because they're a lot of work. I just mentioned Mage Knight. This game, I played it enough. I can teach it like this at this point in time, and I love it. I love this, and good job, people, for agreeing with me. All right. Last top 10 of this list, we talked about the fast rising of Root. Well, this is another one that's shooting way to the top. I don't know that this one will make the top 10. I feel like this one's going to level out right around here. But this is easily the most popular game of maybe gateway gamers or even people beyond that. And in fact, last week we did a 4-way review of this particular game, and that is Wingspan. Wingspan is great for many reasons. I mean, the fact that it has a really cool theme, the fact that it has amazing artwork, the fact that it is one of the most popular games ever made and designed by a woman, which is fantastic, and it's a really cool engine building, and it cements Jamie Stegmaier's just having huge games out there that people love. This is not the last time we will talk about him in this top 100. The components are fantastic. I hear it has a good solo mode. I mean, I upgrade all my games, and I've actually upgraded Wingspan, but you don't need to. This is the game. That's how good it looks out of the box. It plays very easily. It's going to play good every time, different every time you play it. And one of the things that's neat is that there's a deck of bird cards, and every single one is different, and they all have different art. And there's an expansion that does the same thing. And there's another expansion coming out that will do the same thing. It's just phenomenal. This is one, you know, when I say sometimes like, ooh, I'm surprised it's on the list. No surprise here, Wingspan. I think it will move up a little bit farther and just stay in the top 100 for a really long time. All right. Number 22 was 14 last time, but when I first got into Board Game Geek, this was number 1. And it stayed number 1 for a long time, and then was supplanted, and now, oh, it's fallen to 22. But it's still a great game, and that is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a game that does not look like much. Look at that. Not a fantastic look at all. But it is a great game, and I played this one more than almost any other game in my collection, partially because this had one of the first computer games come out for this, not a app, a computer game, and I played it a lot. But I love the idea of the base concept of Puerto Rico, which was take an action, everyone takes an action, you get a bonus. Has been copied in so many other games. Race for the Galaxy, Twilight Imperium 3 got their idea from Puerto Rico. And there are so many ways to get points. It's a game I played it a couple times last year and thought, wow, this game still holds up really well. And there's also been several editions of the game. Some of them have made it look nicer. You can find a super deluxe version, which basically equals a normal version of any other game in 2020. But still, lots of fun. Highly recommend it. Puerto Rico, ignore that guy's grumpy face, even though he does a good job at being the landlord in the Friends building. Alrighty, and so the last one here, 21 was 23 last time, and we're back to Jamie Stegmaier, Viniculture. Actually, this is Viniculture Essential Edition. It's extremely confusing sometimes. Don't worry about it. If it has the word Viniculture on, it's good. If you're going to buy Viniculture, you should buy Viniculture Essential Expansion Edition because it is essential. This one is just tons of fun. It is a worker placement game, and it has different buildings and different cards and different things that you can do. I will say this. I think the game is fantastic and fun. But with its expansion, Tuscany, it transforms into a sublime experience. It has 2 different seasons in the main game. It has 4 seasons in the expansion. And I would not even play the base game without the Tuscany expansion at this point. I would just flat out refuse to. That's how good that expansion is. But despite that, before I played the expansion, I thought Viniculture was fantastic. And you'll have a great time playing it. Just lots of cool things. Making wine. So there you go. That's the end of another top 10. We're now into the top 20. There are still 4 more games that are in the top 20 that were not in the Board Game Geek Top 100 last time we did this 2 years ago. This time the only new one on this one was Wingspan. But there's still more shakeups to come. And I'll tell you what, at this point you can get pretty much any game, you know, any of these games, and you'll really enjoy them. Or at least, even if you don't enjoy them. For example, I didn't enjoy Food Chain Magnate, but I can't look at it and say it's a bad game. These are good games, objectively. Okay, maybe not. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you later.